77 WABC and Bergen Newbridge Medical Center honor the life of legendary broadcaster and our friend, Ernie Anastas.
Hi, it's Ernie Anastas. You know, your thoughts can affect how you feel. Bergen Newbridge Medical Center is the largest hospital in New Jersey, providing comprehensive, equitable, compassionate, and high-quality emergency inpatient and outpatient medical care, plus mental health services and substance use disorder treatment. The Bergen Newbridge team can address your total health needs in one convenient location. Call 201-225-7130 for an appointment or newbridgehealth.org.
Listen, all you New Yorkers.
Taxi!
Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
You are now entering the Stone Zone, and I'm your host, the one and only Roger Stone. Well, in a federal courtroom in Washington, D.C., 31-year-old Cole Thomas Allen pleaded not guilty to charges tied to the April 25th shooting incident at the White House Correspondents Association dinner, which I saw as an attempted assassination of President Donald Trump and many of his top cabinet officials. The dinner was packed with roughly 2,600 elites, but it also included President Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, countless administrative officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and of course, the many people calling themselves journalists. Prosecutors say that Allen rushed past security armed with a 12-gauge shotgun, a .38 pistol, and multiple knives before firing towards law enforcement. Secret Service agents was hit in his bulletproof vest by buckshot, was treated, and was released. No attendees were killed or injured thanks to the fast response of the Secret Service and the police. Allen, a California native with degrees from Caltech and Cal State in Dominguez Hills, has no prior criminal record, but investigators say he had expressed anti-Trump views, had donated to Kamala Harris's presidential campaign, had attended protests, and sent a disturbing manifesto-style email shortly before the attack. Why are they continuing to say that they can't establish a motive? The evidence clearly points to politically motivated violence, not some random act. Allen now faces charges including attempted assassination of the president, assaulting a federal officer with a deadly weapon, and a firearms violation. If convicted on the lead count, he could spend the rest of his life in prison. But a few questions remain, though. How was the security so lax at the White House Correspondents' dinner, considering the number of noteworthy and important people who were in attendance, including those in succession to the presidency of the United States? Why did the Secret Service drop the ball again, just as they did in Butler, Pennsylvania, where the president was shot but survived? Were they aware that this lunatic was going to show up? Was Cole Allen in touch with any federal agents or federal assets in the lead up to the shooting? Unfortunately, very much like the situation in Butler, Pennsylvania, we will probably never know the answers to these legitimate questions. It's always a lone gunman. And then we get move along, nothing here to see, every single time. Just like the assassination of JFK, the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan, and my book about that will be out shortly, there continue to be more questions than answers. Well, Pennsylvania Democrat Senator John Fetterman, once again breaking with the far-left fever gripping his party, calling out Democrats for turning anti-Trump rage into a so-called political platform, appealing on Bill Maher's show and writing a new Washington Post op-ed. Fetterman, who I think would be more comfortable in the Republican Party than the party of today's progressive Democrats, said Democrats simply cannot define themselves as the opposite of President Donald Trump. He criticized candidates who are, in his words, literally running on profanity-laced anti-Trump messaging. He called it absurd, saying the country needs a better way forward. Fetterman also defended positions that used to be common sense in both parties, such as secure borders, support for Israel, avoiding government shutdowns, and deporting illegal immigrants who commit violent crimes. Fetterman backed practical security upgrades for major White House events, saying he personally witnessed the danger during the recent incident where the far-left extremists attacked the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Fetterman said America was lucky that people were not killed and the country needs safer venues, dismissing outrage over a proposed White House ballroom as unserious. The Pennsylvania senator also blasted the left's growing comfort with socialism, yes, and even communism, warning that anyone who thinks socialism is the answer is, in his words, a moron. Well, the senator called it like it is. Fetterman then turned his fire on the media, condemning the 24-hour news cycle that turns opinions into supposed facts. He said that the opinions are not news. Recent polling shows the Democrats in Pennsylvania are turning on Fetterman for telling it like it is. President Trump has offered Fetterman to jump ship over to the Republican Party. Today, I believe he would handily win a Republican primary for the U.S. Senate. That seems to me like a stretch, but even if Fetterman were to leave the Democrat Party, or if a Democrat Party were to leave him by dumping him in a primary, he of course would have the option of going independent, which would almost surely elect a Republican. That would hurt the far-left Democrats immeasurably and perhaps inspire others to jump off that sinking ship as well. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is making a case that should resonate with both America First conservatives and strong supporters of Israel. The leader of the Jewish state is saying that it's time to completely phase out U.S. financial aid to the Jewish state. In a new interview with CBS News, Netanyahu says he wants Israel to draw down to zero the financial component of American military support, which currently totals $3.8 billion a year. His proposed timeline is to begin now and complete the process over the upcoming decade. That is the right message at the right time. America is drowning in debt, taxpayers are stretched thin, and voters are increasingly skeptical of foreign aid, even to our closest democratic allies. A serious America First policy says allies should be strong, sovereign, but also capable of defending themselves without becoming dependent or overly reliant on the U.S. taxpayer. Uncle Sam is tired of being a sucker. And from a pro-Israel perspective, Netanyahu is right as well. Israel is a modern military and technological powerhouse. It has world-class intelligence, it has cyber capabilities, its own missile defense, and an economy built on innovation. A stronger, more independent Israel would be harder for critics in Washington to manipulate and less vulnerable to political hostage-taking from future anti-Israel majorities in Congress. It could also be argued that the financial support from the U.S. is an encroachment on Israelis' national sovereignty. Of course, the United States and Israel should remain close strategic partners. Intelligence sharing, weapons coordination, missile defense research, and coordination against Iran are all still of the utmost importance. But we can do all of this without sending billions in foreign aid. Netanyahu's argument is correct. Israel should stand on its own 2 feet. America should protect its own taxpayers, and both nations should cooperate from a position of strength. That is America First, and it is pro-Israel as well. Meanwhile, with Americans furious over soaring gas prices, Energy Secretary Chris Wright says the Trump administration is open to all ideas to bring relief at the pump, including temporarily suspending the federal gas tax. Secretary Wright told the Meet the Press this past weekend that the administration supports measures that lower costs for working families. He pointed to releases from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, coordination with other nations, and revised EPA rules to help refiners produce more gasoline. President Trump said he supports taking off the gas tax for a quote-unquote period of time, then phasing it back in once prices fall again. The federal gas tax is now at 18.4 cents per gallon, with 24% cents per gallon for diesel. This would provide temporary relief to help Americans while the situation with Iran is wrapped up and things stabilize. The bigger burden in many states, however, comes from state fuel taxes, especially in Democrat-run states. So, for example, California leads the nation with 70.9 cents per gallon, although Governor Gavin Newsom refuses to let any refinery operate in the Golden State. Then when it comes to taxes, it's followed by Illinois and Washington. Michigan's tax is also among the highest, yet Governor Gretchen Whitmer has endorsed federal tax relief while refusing to cut her own state tax. Some Republican-led states have moved faster. Indiana Governor Mike Braun extended tax fuel relief, cutting nearly 60% per gallon, 60 cents per gallon, pardon me. Georgia and Utah have taken steps to reduce the burden. The lesson is clear. Washington can help, but states must act too. American families need cheaper energy, and Democrats must be put on the defensive if they're unwilling to provide that relief. Democrats can suspend their state gas taxes and slash prices for gas for Americans instantly. If they refuse to do so, they deserve the blame for these price hikes. Utah may be the next battleground state. The nationwide fight over redistricting over state Supreme Justice after State Supreme Justice Deanna Hagan recently resigned amid substantial controversy. Hagan had joined the Utah Supreme Court opinion in the League of Women Voters versus Utah versus the Utah State Legislature, a ruling that forced Republican-led state to withdraw its congressional map before the 2026 elections. Utah is currently represented by Republicans in all 4 congressional districts, but the court's decision could create one Democrat-favorable seat centered around Salt Lake City. The case stemmed from a 2018 ballot initiative creating an independent redistricting commission for congressional districts. Utah lawmakers later passed a 2020 law making that commission advisory, but the courts have said the legislature lacked the authority to do that. Hagan later recused herself after leaked text messages alleged she had an affair with the attorney David Raymond, who represented plaintiffs in the redistricting case. Hagan would eventually resign her position after widespread public outrage over her apparent betrayal. In her resignation letter to Governor Spencer Cox, Hagan cited scrutiny of her private life and the toll on her family. Her departure has put additional scrutiny on the Supreme Court to revisit this issue. There's no reason why Democrats should be gifted a seat because a fraudulent, independent redistricting commission just wants to give them one. As the lawmakers of Indiana found out, there are major electoral consequences when Republicans neglect to use their power at their disposal to push back against Democrats. Those Indiana Republicans who resisted a redistricting plan supported by President Trump were wiped out in the Republican primaries only days ago. So it's time for Utah to redraw their maps, for Utah Republicans to do whatever is in their power to deny Democrats a congressional seat, and for the public to accept no excuses as to why this cannot be done. Seeing some of the most interesting videos I've ever seen in politics, the Los Angeles mayoral race is actually drawing national attention as a man named Spencer Pratt, who's a reality TV star best known from MTV's The Hills, actually gains visibility and some traction after viral campaign videos and a closely watched debate with Mayor Karen Bass, a self-avowed follower of Fidel Castro, and council member Nithmaya Rahman. Pratt has framed his campaign around public safety, homelessness, taxes, and frustration with City Hall, but his online presence has helped turn a candidacy once thought to be fringe into a major threat to the political establishment. Why? Because Pratt is both interesting and he's entertaining, much like Donald Trump. Recent reporting shows that Bass remains the front runner, but Pratt has moved into second place in some polling, with Rahman also competing for a runoff spot. The May 6th debate appears to have been a turning point. NBC Los Angeles reported that that event brought the 3 candidates onto the same stage. An NBC4 online viewer poll showed a large majority of voters saying that Pratt won that debate. If you haven't seen these videos, by all means go online, go to X, and check them out. They are hysterical. Bass has since withdrawn from a televised May 13th mayoral forum hosted by the Plague of Women Voters, that's the League of Women Voters, and the Pat Brown Institute, with her campaign saying she would be in the capital city of Sacramento seeking funds for housing, homelessness, and major event planning. Evidently, there are no TV studios in Sacramento. Of course, those are pathetic excuses. She is so scared of getting humiliated by Pratt. His campaign is also benefiting from this viral AI-generated ads, outside attention, and support from outside figures including Jeannie Buss and Joe Rogan. It's clear that Pratt has his finger on the pulse of the new media, and this is a wonder to behold. Check it out. I'm Roger Stone. You're listening to Stone Zone. Don't go away, because we'll be right back.
The following is a paid issue advertisement.
If the vote count is accurate, then how come the number of voters is different? And if it's not accurate, then why was it certified? We are suing Letitia James and the New York State Board of Elections for a conspiracy against fundamental rights. This is not about who won. It's not about what party. It's about the fact that they don't care about your rights.
Paid for by realamerica.vote, a DBA of New York Citizens Audit Civic Fund, Incorporated.
Go to realamerica.vote.